So let's start from the beginning. I don't see anybody, but I see the page. That's all I see.
We also see the page and we see you and we hear you.
Okay, you hear me? That's good. I don't see you. I don't. Einer raue venire. I'm nire ve'ener raue. Maybe it's better like that. I don't know. Okay. Why close the line? All right. Let's learn this sugya, this topic. But Zevi, when I'm finished, you'll put back on the second page on the screen. Come back in 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay. So I want to discuss a little bit what is this concept of having 2 days of Yom Tov in Eretz Yisrael, Bizman Hazeh. After all, many people travel to Israel for Yom Tov. Some people own apartments even in Israel. And the question is, do you hold 1 day Yom Tov? Do you hold 2 day Yom Tovs? Today it's become very fashionable people to hold only 1 day. And the question is there a halachic basis to it? What is the right way to do these type of things? So that's really what I want to discuss today and learn it together with everyone. For some reason, I cannot see anybody. That's a little bit of a problem, but okay.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. To me, it matters. I feel I'm talking to the walls.
Oh.
It's not so fun. I understand why my Zoom doesn't work on my computer, just on my phone. Maybe
it's your problem. I don't know.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. I'm going, like they say, I'm going blindly because I don't know who's there, who's not. So you'll just have to ask me slowly because I don't see anybody. That's the only thing. Okay, so let's give a little background to this whole concept. There's a halacha, Eile Mikroi Kodesh Asher Tikroisam B'Moyadam, that the Beis Din in Yerushalayim or the Sanhedrin Gedola has to be Mekadesh the Chodesh. That means that in olden days that's the way it was done. The two Adam came and they said, we saw the new moon, and therefore, depending when they saw the new moon, either the month was Chaser or the month was Mole. Either there were 29 days in a month, and the 30th night was already Rosh Chodesh, or there were 30 days in the month, and the 31st day was Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the new month. But this was very important, of course. You had to know when the new month started, especially for the Yom Tovim, for the month of Tishrei and the month of Nisan. You have to know when Yom Kippur is, you have to know when Sukkot starts, you have to know when Pesach starts, etc., etc. We know all this. It's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. You look at number 1 on the sheet. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says, "B'Rishayna hayamasiyin mashuos." And in the beginning, they would notify the whole Golah, the whole Chutz Laaretz, when Rosh Chodesh was, when the Beis Din Yerushalayim or the Sanhedrin, wherever they were, said it was Mekudesh, was a new month. They would do it with mashuos. What are mashuos? They would light fires on top of a mountain. And the Gemara describes how they would light the fire outside the Sanhedrin on a big mountain. And then on the mountaintop across, they would see the fire and they too would light a fire. And then a mountaintop across, they too would see the fire. And the entire Golah, the entire Chutz Laaretz, it was almost like IM, instant messaging, that you're able to see the fire when it was lit. And that's how they passed on the message to the entire Golah, to the entire Chutz Laaretz, that day was Rosh Chodesh, and therefore they knew when Yom Tov would start. 15 days later, 10 days later, Tishrei, 15 days later, even that same day for Rosh Hashanah, but then Mishikilkalu HaKutim, Iskinu Shushluchen Yotzim. So then the Kutim, they came, the Kuthites, and they wanted to be a thorn in the side of the Chachamim, and they would be Mekalkel. What do you mean they would be Mekalkel? That days which were not Rosh Chodesh, they would light the fire. And in the Chutzah, they thought, oh, there's a fire, and they would follow suit. And they would tell the whole people would light a fake fire, the Kutim, and the people in Chutzah did not know that. So the next mountain would light the same fire as well. and the entire Gola got messed up. The Gola got messed up because they thought that it was Rosh Chodesh. So Iskinu, they made a takana, Shushluchin Yaitzin. You know what? This is not going to work with the fires. We're going to send out messengers. Private messengers are going to go out from the Bezdin, and they're going to go to all the places in Chutz La'aretz to tell the people when was Rosh Chodesh. So rather than instant messaging, which was with the fires, rather they did it with the shluchim. They did it with messengers, and the messengers would come and tell them. Now, the problem with the messengers telling the people is there's only so far that the messengers can travel. They can't travel on Shabbos, so they didn't have that many days to travel to their whole Chutz La'aretz. And therefore, it turned out that wherever the shluchim would come, they knew when Yom Tov was. But anywhere which was further in the Gullus, further in the Gola, further in Chutz La'aretz, where the shluchim would not be able to get to within 15 days, they really did not know when Rosh Chodesh was. They did not know if this previous month was 29 days or 30 days. They did not know whether Rosh Chodesh was on the 30th day or the 31st day. Rosh Chodesh means the beginning of the month. The 1st of Nisan or the 1st of Tishrei was on day 1 or day 2. So therefore, since the shluchim did not make it to them on time at all before Pesach or before Yom Kippur or before Sukkot, so the minhag was that all the people that lived in areas which were beyond the scope and beyond the traveling of the shluchim, they always kept 2 days Yom Tov min hasafek. That is what took place in the time of the Sanhedrin. The Rambam explains it very clearly. Number one, Sanhedrin kayemes behin koivin al hariyah. When the Sanhedrin was in existence, and they would establish the month based on the riyah, the witnessing of the Eidim. So anybody that was within the vicinity of where the shluchim would reach on time, they did Yom Tov one day. Since they did not know when it was, they kept 2 days misafek. And hence they kept 2 days Yom Tov. That was in the olden days. Then the Gemara says, later on, the Gemara Beitz at Davdalad on the base, which is number 2 in the sheet, that there came a time where the Bezdin Hagadol stopped being Mekadesh as a Chodesh. And everyone everyone was Mekadesh the Chodesh, not based on the Riyah, not based on the 2 witnesses coming to say that we saw the new moon, but rather based on the calendar which was set up by Hillel. By Hillel in the year 300 or 400, 350, 360, Hillel made the calendar, or 400 whenever he lived, and the last Hillel, and he was a Nasi, and he made a calendar. So once he made a calendar, everybody knows when Rosh Chodesh is. Everybody knows when the new month starts. So the Gemara says, when everybody knows, meaning it's the same Chutz La'aretz as Eretz Yisrael. Bahashta, number 2 on the sheet. Bahashta the Yadinon B'Kvi Diyacha Mayav Time Avdinon Treyumi. So now that we know, us in Chutz La'aretz, we know when the new moon is. We're not depending anymore as the time of the Sanhedrin, where we taka did not know, and we kept both days misafek. But today that we do know, and we know exactly when the Rosh Chodesh is, so why today in Chutz La'aretz do we keep 2 days of Yom Tov? Says the Gemara, Mishum Desholchu Mitam, because they sent the message from there. Izaru b'minek avesechem b'yadechem, zimnin degazru shmada v'asili kalkulei. So the Gemara answers that they sent a message to the people in Chutz La'aretz, keep up the minik avosechem b'yadechem. Keep up the old minik that you had, that you people in Chutz La'aretz who were far away where the shluchim would not get to, and you always kept 2 days min hasafek, keep that minik as you did till now, because zimrin the gozru shmoda vasile kelkule, says Rashi, because the gazri amalchus gzeira shlo yisasku b'Torah, because maybe there'll be a time of shmad, a time that you will not be able to keep the Torah, shlo yisasku b'Torah, v'ishtakach soidi ibu mikem. In other words, because you'll forget how to the calendar, you'll forget the soidi ibu, the calendar, v'tavdu nami chad yoimei, but you're not going to, in other words, you won't know when Rosh Chodesh is, you'll forget the calendar, and you won't do 2 days, you'll keep 1 day, because it's either 1 day or 2 days, right? Because Rosh Chodesh is either the 29th, the 30th, or the 31st. So therefore, you'll forget the calendar, you'll do 1 day, and it turns out you'll do chaser when it's male and male when it's chaser, and you'll do chametz on Pesach. In other words, the people in Eretz Yisrael, they'll always be able to go back to the two Eidim, seeing when the new moon is. That's not going to be a problem. Or the people in Eretz Yisrael, they will not be in the time of Shmad, because they'll be in Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, they will know the Soida Ibur. But you will not know Soida Ibur. You will not know the secret of the calendar, when is Rosh Chodesh, when is not. And therefore, just in case that might happen, therefore, you have to keep 2 days no matter what. So halacha l'maisa, the Rambam says, in number 2, this is Rambam, Bizman hazeh she'ein shom Sanhedrin uvezin shel Eretz Yisrael koivin al cheshbon zeh. So today, there is no Sanhedrin, and even in Eretz Yisrael, they set the calendar al cheshbon zeh, on this cheshbon that we have. Then really, everybody knows the secret. Everybody knows when Rosh Chodesh is. Everybody should only hold 1 day. There's no difference. Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Yisrael. Everybody's following the cheshbon. But there's a special takanas chachamim. Keep your old minik that you did, as in the time of the Sanhedrin, when they depended on the shluchim. Lefikach, therefore, it depends. If you're in an area which was far enough that in the time when the shluchim went out, when the messengers went out, that the messengers would not reach your neighborhood, you live in Amsterdam, or you live in Iraq, deep Iraq, or places like that, so the people that live far away, that in the olden days, they did 2 days because it was a suffix, they continued doing 2 days. And the people in Etzol who always held 1 day, because they're always within the vicinity of the shluchim, they keep only 1 day. They never did 2 days. So therefore, the people in Chutz keep 2 days Yom Tov. It's a takona derabanan that you have 2 days Yom Tov. Even though we know when the Chodesh starts, we know when the month starts, nevertheless, you have to keep Yom Tov 2 days, midivrei seifrim, midirabanan shetiknu davazeh. So basically, we have very clear that anywhere in Eretz Yisrael, or even where the shluchim would come out, we keep 1 day bisman hazeh. But anywhere where the shluchim would not make it to in the olden days, they have to keep the day 2 days, medin derabanan, takona derabanan. Even though everybody across the world knows very well when Rosh Chodesh is, it doesn't make a difference. You still have to hold 2 days in Chutz La'aretz because of a takona derabanan. Interesting to note, there's a Shitas Rambam that seems to say that in Eretz Yisrael, where the shluchim would not reach, for example, if in Eretz Yisrael there's a new neighborhood where shluchim never got to, because there were no Jews back in the time of the Sanhedrin in that neighborhood, do you hold there 1 day or 2 days? The Rambam seems to imply that even in Eretz Yisrael, in such places, since the shluchim were never there because they never reached it, because there were no Jews living over there, if today there's a yishuv over there, you'd have to hold 2 days even in Eretz Yisrael. But that is the concept of 2 days Yom Tov, bisman hazeh, in Chutz La'aretz. Any questions to that?
No. I want to know if you have 1 day.
What?
1 day. I want to know if we can keep 1 day.
And we just
No.
started. Who is this? I don't see who's asking the question.
Jacobs.
Yeah. So I mean, we just started this year.
Yes, I know.
Time.
I know.
Everybody wants to know that. Not so easy.
Everyone knows that. Yeah, loves that.
Yeah, but is it clear? Is it clear
Is it
what
clear?
this
Yes.
means?
Yeah.
Rabbi Ralbag, I haven't heard of any place in Israel where I'm living that people keeping 2 days today.
Yes, but there's actually I think the Briskerov was machmir not to do the Oraises even in the new neighborhoods in Yerushalayim. He was chaushesh that perhaps the shluchim did not come there because there was no neighborhood over there, and so the Chazon Ish as well. There were machmirim that even inside Israel proper, because of Shitas Rambam, they held 2 days at least not to do malachas the Oraisa bisman hazeh. Believe it or not.
If you're talking about Purim, it's a different story. Yeah?
Purim is a different story. But here's the
Ramot and Lut, yeah, and Tiberia.
Correct. That's a different story, a whole different discussion. But anyway, this is the discussion over here on the 2 days. Very clear. Any questions? No, very clear. Now we have the following chakira, the following question that we can pose. When Chazal, this is a new concept. When Chazal instituted that you have to do 2 days in Chutz La'aretz, what is the concept of this takana? Is the pshat that they knew the truth is when Rosh Chodesh is, and we know the first day is Yom Tov, and the second day is nothing, but they made a special takana, keep the second day as a Yom Tov mid'Rabbanon. In other words, we know the first day is the real Yom Tov, and nevertheless they said the second day is really nothing, but there's a new takana d'Rabbanon midin vadai, a for sure takana d'Rabbanon that you got to keep the second day Yom Tov as well mid'Rabbanon. Is that the pshat, or is the pshat that no? Since they say Shema Yachzar Hadava Lekilkulau, since perhaps it could be people in Chutz La'aretz will end up doing 2 days misafek in the future when there is Shmad, so they told the people in Chutz La'aretz, today mid'Rabbanon you gotta pretend as if it's Shas Hashmad, and today mid'Rabbanon you gotta keep it as if you taka don't know. And even today, when you do know, put on your blinders, put on your special black glasses, close your eyes, and pretend that you don't know even bisman hazeh, and you keep 2 days mitzad hasafek. That's the question that's not clear when the Gemara says they made a takana bisman hazeh to keep the second day Yom Tov. Is the pshat that the first day is the real day, the second day is only a safek? Is only just opposite. The first day is the real day, the second day is a vadai Yom Tov d'Rabbanon, but nothing more? Or is the pshat no, that today they told people in Chutz La'aretz you have to pretend as if it's Shas Hashmad, and even in Chutz La'aretz both days you got to keep misafek as if you did in the olden days. You understand this question?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
It turns out that question might be a shaila in the Gemara, and this might actually be a machlokes between the Rambam and the Ritva. So if you look in the Gemara, number 3 on the sheet, the Gemara has the following question. Itmar, Shnei Yomim Tovim Shel Goliath. 2 Yomim Tovim of Goliath, which is every Yom Tov Sheni Shel Goliath, which we have in Chutz La'aretz. So there's a question, Beitza Shenolda Bezeh, is it Muteres Bezeh or not? There's a question in Gemara Beitza, an egg which was laid on Yom Tov is Muktzah, is Noilad Muktzah, whatever Pshat in the Gemara is, Dav Beitza, Dav Beis, and Beis, Dav Gimel Amid Aleph, But an egg which is laid on Yom Tov is usher to have and usher to cook on Yom Tov. How about if an egg was laid on the first day of Yom Tov? May you eat it on the second day of Yom Tov. So Rav says, Nolda bazeh muteres bazeh. Rav Asi Omar, Nolda bazeh asura bazeh. The Gemara seems to say, the Rav says an egg that was born on the first day Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz, then the second day Yom Tov, you are allowed to cook it. Why? Because mimon nafshach. If the first day is Yom Tov and the egg was born on Yom Tov, then the second day is not Yom Tov, midaraisa. And the second day is not Yom Tov, then what's the name? Then the second day is not Yom Tov, you're allowed to eat it on the second day. And if the first day is not Yom Tov, and the second day is, then the second day is Yom Tov. So then it wasn't born on Yom Tov, so there's no problem either. So memanashach, either way, an egg which is born on the first day may be eaten on the second day Yom Tov. That is the way Rav paskins. But Rav Asi Omar, nolda bazeh, asura bazeh. An egg which is born on the first day Yom Tov, even bisman hazeh, is forbidden to be eaten the second day Yom Tov. And the Gemara goes on to explain that what's the machlekes between Rav and Rav Asi. This is our machlekes. According to Rav Asi, the reason why an egg born on the first day Yom Tov is forbidden the second day Yom Tov, because it's kedusha achasi, which means once the Gemara says, once the Chazal tell us that bisman hazeh, the second day Yom Tov, is us in Chutz La'aretz, it's midin vadai. They made a new takana de Rabbanon, which means the first day is Yom Tov de Araisa, the second day is Yom Tov de Rabbanon. So both days are vadai Yom Tov, one de Araisa, one de Rabbanon. It's kedusha achas, it's one big kedusha, a kedusha de Araisa going into kedusha de Rabbanon. So therefore, the egg which is born on one day remains forbidden on the second day. Masha'en kein Rav holds that Beitza Shenol de Bazeh Muteres Bazeh, because it's all one big suffix. At the end of the day, when they say keep 2 days Yom Tov, they say hold both days mitzada suffix. It's never better than a suffix. So if it's never better than a suffix, then both days are a suffix, which means if the first day is Yom Tov, then the second day is not. If the first day is not, then the second day is. And hence, Beitza Shenol de Bazeh Muteres Bazeh. That seems to be the machlekes Rav and Rav Asi. How do we paskin? The Rambam paskin to number 4. Shnei yomim tovim shal elu shagaliyos. Shtei kedushos ein. Ve'enan kiyem echot. Lefikach davar shayem mukta b'yom tov rishon. Oy shenoyled b'rishon. Im heichin oysel l'sheni. Hareze muter. Ketzad beitza shenol de b'rishon. Tochal b'sheni. Seems to indicate that it's a suffix. We paskin like Rav. Clearly we paskin like Rav. And an egg born on one day is permitted on the second day. So the easiest way to learn the Rambam is because it's like Rav, and therefore it's a suffix, which means bisman hazeh, you got to keep 2 days min suffix. An egg born on the first day, miman nafshach, is going to be permitted on the second day because it's a takana bisman hazeh of both days being a suffix. That is simple pshat in the Rambam. The problem with that is that there's another Rambam. Now I'm going to take a picture of the second page. Another Rambam that says not like that. The Rambam has a whole discussion on. Let's make the page a little bit better. I have my son is helping me out, and Mizake Sorabim, and knows how to put it on the thing. I don't know why I can't get Zoom over here. Oh, now it works.
Yeah.
You have it?
Yes, I make it bigger. Only yes.
2.
Number 5. Okay.
I think I got it on my computer. Oh, 1 second. Makes it easier. How do I do this? Be big.
It's okay. We see it.
But now I see everybody. It's much easier for me.
Ah.
Oh, excellent. To close this. Why? How do I share screen? Oh, you disabled the screen sharing.
We have it.
I know, only the next one, but you can you can enable the screen sharing. Close it. Just close it. Yeah. Okay, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, better. What did this do? Okay, how do I see everybody else? How do I see everybody else? See myself. Oh. Okay. Zevi, come back in 5 minutes. So if you look in the Rambam in number 5 on the sheet, you all see the Rambam in number 5 on the sheet?
Yes.
In the Jacobs, you see the Rambam?
Yeah. We see. Yes,
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay. So the Rambam in number 5 on the sheet, the Rambam has a whole discussion that Bisman Hazeh, what the Rambam says that really, since it's a suffix, it's a question whether Beitza Shenol de Bazeh, Muteres Bezeh, we hold an egg which is born on one day is permitted on the second day. So he says really both days are a suffix. And if the Rambam says that Shnei Yomim Tovim Shechala Liyos B'Chamishi Ve'erev Shabbos, if you have 2 days of Yom Tov on a Friday and on a Shabbos, and on a Thursday and on a Friday, so I say Erev Tavshilim Yom Revi'u Erev Yom Tov. You can make an Erev Tavshilin on Wednesday, which is Erev Yom Tov. Shochach v'lo yiniach, if you forgot Erev Tavshilin and you didn't do anything on Wednesday, menichoy b'roshain u'masneh. Then you can put Erev Tavshilin on Thursday, even if it's on Yom Tov, and you can make it tonight. Ketzad, meniach Erev Tavshilin Yom Chamishi. You can put Erev Tavshilin on the first day Yom Tov. V'omer, and you can say, Im hayom Yom Tov u'lemocha choil, lemocha vashel v'oifer l'Shabbos. Ve'eni tzarich klum. If today is Yom Tov and tomorrow is a weekday, then I'm allowed to cook from Friday to Shabbos. V'im hayom choil u'lemocha Yom Tov, and if today is a weekday and tomorrow is Yom Tov, then this is a good Erev because it's Erev Yom Tov. And the next thing the Rambam says, the next halacha, same thing, similar. That if I have two things of tevel, which is no trumas and maisus, are taken off, and I want to eat from something without taking off trumas and maisus, and the halacha is on Yom Tov you cannot take off trumas and maisus. So then really 2 days of Yom Tov you're allowed to do that. On the first day you can take off, on the second day you take off, and then memanavshach on the second day you can eat. Same idea. So the Rambam says in Halacha Yudalet, the third paragraph, Kol advorim eelu shomarnu hoyu bizman shoyu bezdin sheletzol mikatchen al pi hariyah. V'hoyu bnei hagoliyos oisin shnei yomim k'dei listalik min hasofek. Lifi shlo yodim yom shekitchu b'hoi bnei etzol. The Rambam says all these halachas that it's really a suffix is in the olden days. Because then in Chutz they held both days because they weren't sure. Aval hayoyim shebnei Yisrael soimchen al cheshbon umekatchen alav ein Yom Tov sheni l'sal min hasofek ela minig bilvat. Ulefikach ani oimer shein mar v'odom u'mastim b'zman hazeh, etc., ela hakol me'erev Yom Tov bilvat. The Rambam says very clearly that in the olden days there was a suffix in Chutz La'aretz. We Taka did not know in Chutz La'aretz which day was Yom Tov,
and therefore they kept both days mitzad hasafik because they weren't sure. But today in Chutz La'aretz, we all know when Yom Tov is, so there's no real safek both days. We know the first day is Yom Tov D'Oraisa, and the second day is Yom Tov D'Rabbanan, and therefore you cannot do this piece of Erev Tafshilin on a Thursday on Yom Tov with the Memanushach. There is no safek. So the Rambam seems to hold clearly that Bisman Hazeh, there is first day Yom Tov D'Oraisa, second day Yom Tov D'Rabbanan. But the Ritva in number 6 says not like that. The Ritva says, number 6, Pirish, Kishakavu Hillel Beis Dinai Cheshben Zeh, Kavu Al Manas, Sheniye Noyagin Beinyan Amoidois, Keminik Abaseinu, Lasa Shnei Yomim B'Chutz La'aretz, that today we have to hold 2 days Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz, K'moisha Yenoigim Abaseinu, Sheloi Hoyoidin B'Kviyah Diacha. Just like our forefathers did when they were not sure. Says the Ritva, the second line, V'yiyeh lanu, and it will be for us, Kilu heim safek gomor kivitchila, like it's a real safek, like originally. Levarech ulekadesh v'sheni v'litchais lulav berishoin. In other words, not to put lulav on the first day, second day, it's a real safek. Me'ata harei onu beikar ha'maisa ki'ilu ein onu yodim b'kviyah diyacha. We consider the second day as if ein onu yodin b'kviyah diyacha, as if we do not know when the real Yom Tov is. So it's quite clear in the Ritva that it's a safek bisman hazeh, even in Chutz La'aretz. It's not really a safek. We know when Yom Tov is, but we consider both days as if it's a safek. The Rambam clearly says that bisman hazeh, it's not a safek. We know when Yom Tov is. The first day is Yom Tov Midaraisa, the second day Yom Tov Midarabanan, but it's a Vada Yom Tov, the second day Midarabanan, and the first day it's a Vada Yom Tov Midaraisa. But the Ritva learns not like that, that both days we have to pretend as if it's a safek, as if we're still in the time when they would calculate the moon and the Chodesh based on the new moon, and therefore the people in Chutz La'aretz never did know, they kept a safek. And today, Bisman Hazeh, you have to keep both days misafek, even in Chutz La'aretz. So they see, so yes, in America and in Amsterdam and in Chutz La'aretz, we keep 2 days Yom Tov. Why? Machlekes. The Rambam says the second day is a Vada Yom Tov D'Rabbanan. First day is a Vada Yom Tov D'Oraisa. The Ritva learns, no, in Chutz La'aretz we pretend as if both days are a safek. Both days are a safek, as if it was in the olden days, and hence you keep 2 days Yom Tov misafek in Chutz La'aretz. That is the machlekes in understanding what the concept of 2 days Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz is, even bisman hazeh. Any questions on that?
No.
Not yet. Mr. Jacobs, is that clear?
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay, it's a machlekes. It's a machlekes. It's a machlekes, the geder, the concept of why we keep 2 days in Chutz La'aretz. Midin Vadai as a D'Rabbanan, or Midin Safek as it was in the olden days. Now, once we know that, now
the only
we
exception, of course, is Rosh Hashanah, yeah?
No, not Rosh Hashanah. Who am I speaking to? Could you put your video on? Because now I can see everybody. So I'd like to see who I'm speaking to.
Frank Levy from Petach Tikva.
Okay, good. I remember you from last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's your question? Rosh
I
Hashanah,
said, the exception is Rosh Hashanah.
correct. Rosh Hashanah, even in Eretz Yisrael, they held 2 days.
This is 2 days.
Correct. But I'm talking about a regular Yom Tov Sheni. Regular Yom Tov Sheni seems to be a machlekes rishonim what the concept of Yom Tov Sheni bisman hazeh is. Now, how is this relevant to us? So let's see now, what do we do when we come from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael? Right? Now we get into the nitty-gritty, but now we understand the concept. We can try and understand what the machlekes is about. So let's go to the next thing, which is number 7 on the sheet. So the Mishnah says like this: Mokem shenogu lasos malacha ba'avi psochim at chatzois oisin. Mokem shenogu sheloi lasos ein oisin. There were various minhagim where the Erev Pesach, after chatzois or to chatzois, you're allowed to do malacha on Erev Pesach. And some places did, and some places did not. Says the Mishnah, "Hahaulech mi mokem she'oisin lemokem she'ein oisin, I mi mokem she'ein oisin lemokem she'oisin." Let's say you travel from one place to the other place. With the place you come from does malacha. The place you're going to does malacha, does not do malacha. What do you do? Neistan alav chumrei mokem sheyotze misham. You have to keep the chumras of both places. You come from a place that doesn't do malacha, you have to keep that chumrah. You go to a place that doesn't do malacha, you got to keep that chumrah. That's the Mishnah telling us. So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara in Daf Nun Aleph and Aleph says like this. The third line in number 7. Ki osa Rabbi Bachana ochal da'aitara. Rabbi Bachana came from Israel to Chutz La'aretz, to Bavel. From Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. He ate a part of the stomach, which in Israel they allowed, but in Bavel they did not allow it. But he came from Eretz Yisrael, and he kept the minhag of Eretz Yisrael. So legabe Rav Avira Saba, Rabbi Breder Ravuna. So these two Chachamim, Rav Avira Saba and Rabbi Breder Ravuna, came to visit him. Even the Chazinu, he saw them. Kasi minayu, he covered up. He didn't want to show them that he was mekel, that he was easy over here in Chutz La'aretz in Bavel, and he ate like he did in Eretz Yisrael. Also, v'amlei Abaye, so they told Abaye, Amulu, he told them, Shavinchu kikutayu. He looked at you like Yikutim. He didn't want to tell you the halacha. So Gemara says, V'Rabba Bachana les lehodetnan, neis levchumi mokem she'yotze misham, v'chumi hamokem she'olach l'sham. The Gemara asked the question: why didn't Rabbi Bar Bachana? Why didn't he keep the minhag of the place that he came to? After all, he came to Bavel. He should have kept the chumras of Bavel. So the Gemara says, "Amar Baya hani mili Bavel above Etzel Etzel. Inam Bavel Etzel. Av Etzel Bavel loy. Even Ankafinu lu avdin kavasayu. When you go from Etzel to Bavel, that's different. Etzel is much higher level. And therefore, if you go from Etzel to Bavel, you don't have to keep the chumras of where you're going to. That's the first teretz of the Gemara. Last teretz of Gemara, number 7, the last line. Ravashi Omar, afilu teimom Eretz Yisrael leBavel. Even if you go from Etzel to Bavel, you have to keep the chumras of the place you come to. Hanimili heicha dein taita lachzor. Rabbi Bachana daita lachzor have. The Gemara says over here, very important yesod, that even though you're supposed to keep the chumras of the place you go to, but if you daitoi lachzor, if your intention is to go back to your original place, then you don't have to keep the chumras of the new place. Then you can keep the old place as chumras, then there's no problem. So if you have to make a copy of it, how do you do that? You'll be back on Zoom, right? On Zoom, okay, so make copy of the third one and put on. So in other words, if you die to lachzor, if your intention is to go back, then you can keep the kulas and the chumras of the place that you are from. If a person comes from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, his intention is go back to Eretz Yisrael, he doesn't have to be mitchashev He doesn't have to care about what's happening in the place he's coming to. He can keep all the kulas and the chumras of the place that he left from. And that's the halacha. And therefore the Gemara says, in the next page, the next thing, number 7, Amalei Rav Safra le Rab Abba. So Rabbi Safra, who came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he told Rabbi Abba, Goin Anan, me, the Adina Bikvi Diacha, I come from Eretz Yisrael. I know when Yom Tov is. So when I come to Chutz La'aretz, I can only hold 1 day. He says, it depends when. B'yishuv lo yavidno b'bnei shinoi hamachlokas. So when I come to Chutz La'aretz, I come to a yishuv where people are living and they're holding 2 days Yom Tov. I'm not going to hold 1 day Yom Tov. That's machlokas. I'm not going to, they're holding Yom Tov. I'm not going to go drive a car. That I'm not going to do. But midbar mai, but when I go in the desert where there are no Jews around, there's no yishuv over there. What's halacha? Amlei hachamarav b'yishuv aser b'midbar mutter. In other words, when I'm coming from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, I really have to hold only 1 day because I'm daitai lachzor. I only hold 1 day because I'm going back to Eretz Yisrael. There's a halacha that you cannot do melacha b'yishuv in a neighborhood where Jews are living. But if there is no yishuv, technically speaking, I can hold 1 day Yom Tov. Why? Because I'm daitai lachzor. I go with the halachas of where I came from. And I came from Eretz Yisrael, and I'm going back to Eretz Yisrael, I can hold 1 day. I shouldn't hold 1 day, be yishuv. But if it's not a yishuv, then I can hold only 1 day. If you haven't noticed that there are programs that people make Pesach programs in Greece. So the Israelis that make Pesach program in Greece, they hold 1 day Yom Tov. Why do they hold 1 day Yom Tov in Greece? After all, Greece is Chutz La'aretz. And the answer is because they don't go to a place which is Yishuv, which is a neighborhood where Jews live. They go to Greece, some island, there's no Yishuv, there are no Jews living over there. So therefore they say, it's B'midbar. So we're B'nai Eretz Yisrael, we're Daita Lachzat Eretz Yisrael, we only have to hold 1 day. And that's the halacha. You come to America, you come to Amsterdam, you have to hold 2 days, B'nei HaMachlekas. But you come to a place where there's a midbar, where there's no yishuv, then you have to hold 1 day is good enough. Why? Because you're daita lachzar back to Eretz Yisrael, and all the concepts of chumras and kulas doesn't apply. You keep everything as it's done in the place where you came from. That is,
I don't completely agree with you, yeah? Because if you go to a hotel from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, you meet people from Israel who are there, and you meet people from Chutz La'aretz. Now the people from Chutz La'aretz have to keep 2 days of Yom Tov, yeah?
I know,
so
it's hard,
you're
it's
not
hard
allowed
to
to Vahesya to be Mechalel Yom Tov.
You're right. Maybe that applies as Yishuv also. So generally speaking, they have 2 separate programs. I know they have these programs in Israel, in Crete or something, Israeli programs, and people tell me everybody held 1 day. Why do they hold 1 day? Because it was an Israeli program. Now, it's not going to work if you come to a Yishuv, but if you do in the midbar, that's, I think, why people are making.
If 50% of the people in the hotel is from Chutz La'aretz and 50% is
then
from
maybe
Eretz
not.
Israel.
Then maybe not. You're right. Then maybe not. Then there's machlekes soon. 3 minutes. Then maybe if now machlekes it applies as well. I know they're makel on this kula. Some, for example, there are doctors who travel back and forth from America to Israel. They live in Israel and they work in America. So they many times they travel on the second day Yom Tov, Matzah Yom Tov Arishon, they travel back to America. And halacha is they're not allowed to do malacha when they come to America. So then sometimes they travel and they stay in the airport. And in the airport they say that's not Mokem Yishuv. If it's outside the city, the airport is not Mokem Yishuv, and they stay there till Matzah Yom Tov in the airport. That's some are makel for that reason. Again, the concept
that's
is
right. Dr. Van Dijk, my friend, Dr. Van Dijk, who's living here as well, he was supposed to attend a congress in Holland, and he had to travel on the second day of Yom Tov, Yom Tov Sheni and Galuyot. So there was Pascha that he had to stay at Schiphol till night.
Right. But in Schiphol, he did malacha because not Yishuv.
Yeah.
Right. So that's this concept over here. Now, number 8, the Ran says very clearly that what's considered that you're daitoi lachzor, in other words, you have to keep all the halachas of where you came from. Until you settle in the new city, you are still considered from the old city, and therefore you have to keep the halachas of where you came from. That is what the Ran says, and that seems to be the halacha. Now, what does that mean? Halacha l'maisa, what does that mean? So we know there's two separate halachas. There's one halacha that in Chutz La'aretz, in Eretz Yisrael, people keep 1 day Yom Tov. In Chutz La'aretz, people keep 2 days Yom Tov. Either midin vadai or midin safek. But in Chutz La'aretz, you keep 2 days Yom Tov. What about if I travel from one place to the other? So the Gemara in Pesachim clearly says you have to keep chumrei and kulei of the mokem that you left until you are kaveya in the new place. Until you come to the new place and you live in the new place, you have to keep the halachas of the old place. What does that mean in practical terms? So the Shulchan Aruch says very clearly in number 9, B'nei Eretz Yisrael shebo lechutz la'aretz, people from Israel, they come to Chutz La'aretz, asurim la'asas malacha b'yom tov sheni b'yishuv, afilu daita lachzor. That even though they're daita lachzor and they only have to hold 1 day, but since they come to the yishuv, they have to hold 2 days because of machlekes. But v'chol zman shelo higiu liyishuv, afilu daita lachzor muter b'fi shelo legvulias k'moison. In other words, also, if you come to a place and until you settle in a place, then you're still from the old person. And that's halacha. You keep the old place minhagim until you settle in the new place, and then you keep the new place minhagim.
For instance, on the Acharon Shel Yom Tov, they have to put on tefillin.
Where? In Chutz La'aretz, of course.
Yeah, the Eretz Yisrael, Israeli who, yeah.
Now, interesting to note. Interesting to note, the Shulchan Aruch only brings down the case people going from Chutz La'aretz from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. He doesn't bring down the halacha, which we all want to know, people from Chutz La'aretz going into Eretz Yisrael. But what should be the halacha? Minir Rabbein Levi, Minir Levi. What should be the halacha? People coming from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael based on the Gemaras that we said just now.
There's a psak that somebody's got rechush in Eretz Yisrael.
Well, slow down. You're going way too fast. What rechush? What's the halacha?
He's got a house. He's got a house. He's intending to people. It was Pascha. People came with Hachshara. Yeah.
Mr. Levi. Let's go step by step.
No, only holidays we had.
Wait. Based on the Gemaras that we said, that is two different halachas. Somebody who lives in Chutz La'aretz holds 2 days, either midin vada, midin safek. Somebody at Yisrael holds 1 day. If you're going from a 2-day guy, you go to Chutz Eretz Yisrael, which holds 1 day, and you're daitoi lachzor, your intention is to go back. What is the halacha based on the Gemara in Pesachim?
2 days.
You go to a place and you're daitoi lachzor, you got to keep the minhagim of the place that you came from. Black on white, what's the halacha? Minir Jacobs?
2 days.
2 days, not even a shaila.
Yeah, Betty.
It's a beferish Gemara. How could you argue in a Beferish Gemara? The Shut Afkas Roichel, which is the Beis Yosef himself in Shilas and Shuvas, not in Shulchan Aruch, Hadova Pashut Umevual Shel Oilam Kol Shedaitoi Lachzor Anu Royim Oisai Ki'ilu Hu Adayin B'Mokem Sheyatza Misham L'Chol Dovo. When you die to Lachzor, as if you are still in that place. Fine.
I'm talking about the Arai situation. Yeah, I came from Holland to Israel. I bought a house here in Israel.
Wait. We're not doing halacha yet. Let's do the question. V'chein mi sheba. This is for you, Mr. Levy. V'chein, the fourth line. Mi sheba michutz la'aretz le'eretz Yisrael v'daita lachzor have bichlal b'nei chutz la'aretz ninu v'chein maisim b'chol yoyim b'chol shana v'shana oilim l'shalosh regalim michutz la'aretz le'aretz v'oisin yoyim sheni shagalias ketikunov ukemishbotov v'chutz la'aretz. No question. You hold 2 days Yom Tov. The Beis Yosef, the Rav in Tzvas, the Mara, the Ara, the Yisrael. He says clearly there's no Shaila based on the Gemara, based on the Minik Avasechem Yadechem. 2 days in Chutz La'aretz, you come to Eretz Yisrael, 2 days in Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because you have to keep all the halachas of where you came from. No question, no Shaila, straightforward, klar, point out.
Yeah.
Anything else to add on to that? Let me the next page. Okay, now, let's go to the next stage. Comes along the Chacham Tzvi. Chacham Tzvi was the Rabbein in Amsterdam. And the Chacham Tzvi was, by the way, from the Chote Rabbeinen in Amsterdam until they threw him out. Everybody knows the history, or do I have to, don't do revisionist history, please. The Chacham Tzvi had to run away from Amsterdam, I think in the middle of the night. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
He basically threw him out of Amsterdam. Is that true, Mini Jacobs?
Yeah.
Let's not sugarcoat anything. The greatest from the Gedolei Yisrael, from the greatest Rabbanim Amsterdam ever had, they basically threw him out in the middle of the night. But they felt bad. They regretted that they threw out the Chacham Tzvi, and therefore they made sure all the children and Einiklech of the Chacham Tzvi became Rabbanim in Nederland. Is that true? The Binyan Ariel, Reb Shaul Amsterdam.
Yes, yeah.
And Daures.
Reb Shaul Amsterdam, yeah.
Yeah, because they threw out the Chacham Tzvi. But okay, but the Chacham Tzvi comes up. It was asked this question, and the Chacham Tzvi says something very, very unique and very different and very questionable, hard to understand. The Chacham Tzvi. Let's read it together inside. Sha'alta, you asked the question, number 10. B'nei chutz la'aretz ha'olim le'eretz Yisrael derech arai. The people in Chutz La'aretz who come for a visit, not buying a house, not coming and hachshara, not coming to live there. Derech arai. What does that mean? A visitor. Temporary. Heich yisnaig b'shalosh regalim im kibnei Eretz Yisrael or kibnei Chutz La'aretz. How do you hold? Says the Chacham Tzvi, Shuva, Nira lafin is daiti, Nitzrichim heim lehisnaig binyone hamoidim, ke'echod b'mnei Eretz Yisrael atayishavim. Says Chacham Tzvi, against everybody else, against the Gemara, against everybody else, that when they come to Eretz Yisrael, they got to keep 1 day Yom Tov, not 2 days. Why? Why does he say that? Ve'ein ze b'chlal chumrei makom sheyatzu misham. And you don't have to keep the chumras of where you came from. Why not? Lo mibayeh b'tfilas u'brachas u'kriyas sefer Torah Shein Chut Be'etzem, Malachim Mochav, etc., etc. Elafilu b'mlacha mutarim, Shilu. Why he says even malacha you're allowed to do in Eretz Yisrael. One day Yom Tov completely. Shi'ilu hayu kol anshe hamokim yotz b'sham kan b'kviyusa, pshita shasum l'aseh memecha b'shum b'ataysev. He says two reasons he gives. One reason he says you're keeping chumras from where you came from 2 days Yom Tov, but holding another day Yom Tov in Eretz Yisrael is not a chumrah. That's Baal Tosef. You're adding an extra day to Yom Tov. You're not allowed to do that. Baal Tosef, you cannot add an extra day. Something which is a chumrah, then you can keep the chumrah in a new place. But over here in Eretz Yisrael, you cannot keep the chumrah of a second day. That's Baal Tosef. That's number one. Now, look in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines in the second paragraph. You coming from a place that you have to hold 2 days because you might go back to its original zera and you have to hold 2 days of Chutz La'aretz. Ach kilkola gufa le'shayich elek she'bim koimon b'Chutz La'aretz. Aval b'm yoysen b'Eretz Yisrael le'shaycha. Says a big thing that even though it says that you keep 2 days in Chutz La'aretz because it might go back to Shmad and you'll lose the calendar and you'll have to do 2 days and therefore now you have to do 2 days, that never applied in Israel. That only applied in Chutz La'aretz. And therefore, since in Israel there's never a suffix that you might have to do 2 days, so when you come to Israel, you keep only 1 day. And there's a shaila of Baal Tosef, and you're mechuyev to keep only 1 day, and you're not allowed to do 2 days, maybe even a problem of a Baal Tosef. That's where the Chacham Tzvi paskins. A mechudesh pshat, chidush gadol, because Pashtus, the Gemara only says the opposite. The Gemara says if you go from one place to the other place, you have to keep the chumras where you come from. If you die to Lachzor. And here the Chacham Tzvi says that even if you die to Lachzor, you don't keep the chumras of where you come from. You keep only 1 day, as in Eretz Yisrael. So they all ask in the Chacham Tzvi few questions. A, the Gemara says not like that. The Gemara says you keep the chumas of the place you come from. So the Chacham Tzvi answers, the Gemara is only talking about going from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. Then you keep the minhagim of where you came from. Masha'en Kain, going from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, there's a problem of Baal Tosef. That's the answer to Chacham Tzvi. Secondly, the Chacham Tzvi gives a second svara, that even the people, if you all move to Eretz Yisrael, there's no concept of Shmad. So why are you keeping 2 days in Eretz Yisrael? There's no concept of Shmad. So they all ask in the Chacham Tzvi, but what do you mean? Who cares? There's no concept of Shmad in Eretz Yisrael. But you are a Ben Chutz La'aretz, and living, resting upon your shoulders is the minhag of Avaseichem v'Yadechem, that you got to keep the minhag that you did in Chutz La'aretz. So who cares that in Eretz Yisrael there's never a suffix? What's the difference? At the end of the day, you have to keep the minhag that you came from. So how do you understand the Chacham Tzvi? Yaakov, do you hear the question?
Yeah, I hear. Yeah.
What does the Chacham Tzvi mean? It doesn't make sense. I can't understand it. Okay, I hear what he says about Tosef. I get it. But then he says a second svara that no, since you come from Chutz La'aretz, and that soul there's never a suffix. So if in that soul there's no suffix, you only keep 1 day. Who cares that in that soul there's no suffix? At the end of the day, I'm coming from a place that holds 2 days. I have to keep the minhag of where I came from, even if it does not apply in that soul. What's the difference? What's the pshat? And to add on to it, not just the Chacham Tzvi, but Reb Shmuel Salant, the great Rav of Yerushalayim for 60 years. He was the Rav of the Prushim in Yerushalayim from the year 1860 or 1850 to 1920, the old Rav Yerushalayim from the Prushim, from the old Yishuv, the Alta Yishuv, before the everybody came to Israel, when the Yerushalmim lived over there, he says, I kind of like the Chacham Tzvi. It makes a lot of sense. So he writes over there, we're not going to go through the Mara Mekaymish, you can take it home and look at it, but he writes over there and he says that, this Chacham Tzvi makes sense to me. Because he says, a matter of fact, if you can look over here, maybe in what's the name? Where is it? Over here. Umipi Moiri, the second paragraph on number 10, it's a little different print. So he writes, Umipi Moiri Choisnis Keni. This is written by Tikuchinsky, who is the grandson-in-law of Shmuel Salant. Again, Shmuel Salant Shemati Oitam Leshvach, Lechazek b'mismeirim et shitas Chacham Tzvi. Hinei takones Yom Tov Sheni haloi mishu minik aviseinu biyadenu. Loimar kishem shenogu oz bizman hakiddush al pi rio shechziku b'richut mokem beizot mishum sofek. Ken yesh la'achzik gam bizman hazeh. He said, since they kept it then as a sofek, so today we also have to hold 2 days as a sofek. V'aloi ef shelachzik bizman hazeh. He says, back then, in the olden days, when in Eretz Yisrael they did with the Riyah, with the seeing the moon, the people in Chutz La'aretz kept 2 days. Correct. But if those people in Chutz La'aretz would have traveled to Israel, they would have kept 1 day. Because in those days, everybody depended where you were. If you in Chutz La'aretz, you held 2 days. If you went to Eretz Yisrael, they were Mekadesh al Pi Ariyah, they held only 1 day. V'haraya, you didn't bring 2 korban Pesachs if you came to Eretz Yisrael for a visit, right? People who came from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael for Yom Tov. When did you do korban Pesach? The first day, not 2 days. So back then, they kept Yom Tov. Only 1 day if you went from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. We went from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. You held only 1 day. So why Bisman Hazeh, when Minik Aviseinu B'Yadenu, and you go to Eretz Yisrael, you're going to hold 2 days? That's a Shmuel Salan's question. Doesn't make sense. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when people in Chutz La'aretz held 2 days, and people at Yisrael held 1 day, if you had a tayar, a visitor, going from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael for Pesach, does he bring 2 korban Pesachs?
Of course not. There's only 1 korban Pesach.
Of course not.
Yeah?
Of course not. Chas v'sholem, you're not allowed to. So today we're doing minik aviseinu b'yadenu like back then. So back then you would have gone to Chutz La'aretz. You also only held. You go to Eretz Yisrael, you also hold only 1 day. So how today do you hold 2 days in Chutz La'aretz in Eretz Yisrael? It makes no sense. That's Shmuel Salan's question, and therefore Shmuel Salan says, I'm not going to pass him like the Chacham Tzvi 1 day, but I'm choishesh for the Chacham Tzvi. And therefore, you should maybe put on tefillin the last day if you come as a guest to Israel, and maybe you should daven chayil. He has all types of things how you should be nohek to be machmir like both cheetahs, because he's choishesh. He holds the Chacham Tzvi might be right. On the other hand, everybody else says, what's pshat in the Chacham Tzvi? Doesn't make sense. The Gemara says you got to keep the chumras of where you come from. So what's the machlokes, the Chacham Tzvi, and everybody else? So I want to say, I'll tell you pshat in the machlokes, the Chacham Tzvi, and everybody else. Very, very simple. Everybody else holds that the takana of 2 days Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz, like the Rambam, it's a din vadai. We know when Yom Tov is. It's the 15th of Tishrei. It's Sukkot. Midrabanan, they said, you got to keep the 16th midin vadai. Vadai derabanan. So then bisman hazeh, we know when Yom Tov is. Still, you have to hold the second day as a Yom Tov midrabanan. So they all say, if that's the case, you come to Eretz Yisrael, you're right, We all know when Yom Tov is in Eretz Yisrael, and we know today everything. We know everything. You got to keep the chumras of where you're coming from. So therefore, you hold 2 days in Eretz Yisrael, in Chutz La'aretz. You got to hold 2 days in Yom Tov. But the Chacham Tzvi holds like the Ritva. The Chacham Tzvi holds that when they said 2 days in Chutz La'aretz, because the Chazal said, close your eyes, put on your blinders, and pretend as if you're living Bizman Hashmad. Pretend that both days are a suffix. Pretend that you're living in a time, Shema Yachza Adova Lekilkuloi, as if you don't know what you're doing, and you have to hold 2 days misafek. Comes along the Chacham Tzvi, and he says, if you're living in Chutz La'aretz and you're holding 2 days because you're not sure, because you are a suffix, or at least you're pretending as if you are a suffix. But if you'd be a suffix in the time of Chazal and you come to Eretz Yisrael, you don't have a suffix anymore. Because that's all you knew when Yom Tov was. So then even Bizman Hazeh, when you come to Eretz Yisrael, you don't have that suffix anymore and you hold only 1 day. So the reason why the Chacham Tzvi says you hold only 1 day, because he looks at the whole takana, not midin vade, only midin suffix. And midin suffix, you only had a suffix in Chutz La'aretz. You had no suffix in Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, even Bizman Hazeh, you come to Eretz Yisrael, there's no more suffix, and hence you hold only 1 day. That's what I think Pshat is in the Chacham Tzvi that argues in everybody else. You know, Yaakov, do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay, it's nice. But we have to keep 2 days.
I'm not changing the psak yet. We're not getting to
No,
change the psak. I'm just telling you what the machlek is. At least I understand where the Chacham Tzvi is coming from.
Mhm.
So what does it mean now for us, halacha l'maisa? Who do we paskin like? Do we paskin like most poskim that say 2 days, regular 2 days? Or do we paskin like the Chacham Tzvi? So I have another sheet over here, which for some reason, Zev, could you come over here and fix it? Okay. So how do we pass on halacha l'maisa? So the truth is like this: it would seem to be that almost all the poskim hold not like the Chacham Tzvi. Almost all the poskim hold like most of the poskim, like the Afkas Roichel, like the Beis Yosef, like everybody else here, perfect, that you have to hold regular 2 days when you come to Eretz Yisrael. Mind you, Lubavitch, I think Paskins like the Chacham Tzvi as well. The Shulchan Aruch Rav holds like the Chacham Tzvi, they hold only 1 day. But all the other poskim hold 2 days, like you are B'nai Chutz La'aretz, and you have to hold 2 days. But remember, we said very clearly in the Ran says that you keep the old minik until you are outcare your dira. What does it mean, outcare your dira? Until you establish yourself in the new place, and then you can keep the minhagim of the new place. So the question is, when do I consider myself that I'm establishing myself in the new place? How much do I consider myself that I'm establishing myself in the new place, and I can have only 1 day when I come from Chutz La'aretz into Eretz Yisrael? That is the question. So the truth is, here there's a difference between the Gedolei HaPoskim, because many of the Israeli poskim had the Chacham Tzvi in the back of their minds. So even if they didn't want to paskin like the Chacham Tzvi, but they used it as a tziruf. They used it, you know what, according to the Chacham Tzvi, you hold 1 day. So in this case, you can also hold 1 day. That's where it boils down, the nafkaminas, the relevances, this Chacham Tzvi and everyone else. For example, when do we say a person is considered in the new place? So probably when somebody is a tayar, when somebody is a guest, a visitor, for sure he has to hold 2 days. There's no question about it. Some are machmir and say, you know what? The last day I should put on tefillin. Because since according to the Chacham Tzvi, it doesn't apply. So even though I'm not going to do malacha, but the last day I should put on tefillin. Some are machmir like that. Others say, even tefillin you don't put on because you're a regular 2-day person, and that's what most hold. But some are machmir, like the Chacham Tzvi, to put on tefillin the last day. But the question like this: when am I considered yakar dirato? Then I am uprooting my old place. I'm in my new place. Is it a function of time? Is it a function of machshava? What does it depend on? So there's a wide range of shitas on this. If you look, for example, number 11, he brings down Ein Shut Zer Avram Shekosav Gamken Dilintiv Yontiv Sheni Loi Kavu Chazal Shmum Zman Li Shivasai Bir Shenichnas Ba. Not dependent at all on the timing. Ela Talui Dover Talui Bim Daitoi Lachzar Oilai. It all depends on one thing. Are you daitoi lachzar or you're not daitoi lachzar? And therefore, it depends only on what is your intention. If you come to Eretz Yisrael and your intention is to go back to Chutz La'aretz, I don't care how long you're staying in Eretz Yisrael, you seem to have to hold 2 days. That's what some say. Others say that no, if you come for more than a year, you're already considered dependent on time, you're already more than a year in Eretz Yisrael, you hold 1 day. Others say if you come with your wife and your children to try it out, then in the meantime you're here. And if the parnasa works itself out, you'll stay here. Then even if it's daita lachzor, but you come with your wife and children, then you have to hold only 1 day. And that depends on the poskim. On the one hand, those say, the famous question, a young couple that moves to Israel and is planning to be there only for 2 years, more than a year, do they hold 1 day or 2 days? So the Israeli poskim will say, you hold 1 day. Why? Even if your intention is to go back, you don't know. You're with your wife and children in Israel. If parnasa works out, you might like it. You'll stay over there. But the American Gedolim, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, look at number 12 and number 13. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein writes, no. Even if you are with your wife and children, that's only in the olden days when people didn't travel back and forth. Today, people travel back and forth all the time, and it makes no difference. People are running back and forth. It takes less than 12 hours to go from America to Israel. People go here. People go for simchas back and forth. So just because you went with your wife and children, that doesn't mean anything. And Moshe says, until you know that you establish yourself in Eretz Yisrael, you hold 2 days. Very strong that you have to hold 2 days. Others, the Meir Brandsdorfer, say, no, if you go with your wife and children, you hold 1 day. I remember when I got married and I moved to Israel right after my chasana, and my father-in-law was living in Canada, and he would support us, send us money every month. And I went to ask a Shaila, do I hold 1 day or 2 days? I said, you going back? He said, I'm probably going to go back. Why not? I have nothing to do over here. In the meantime, over here. And Rabbi Yaakov Bloy from the Yerushalmi poskim said, "Segenuk ein tag. 1 day is enough. Do 1 day." And I remember my in-laws would tell me, because their daughter was moving away, I'm holding 1 day. That means I'm staying in Israel. And I remember my father said, "What do you mean? But your parnasa is coming from Chutz La'aretz, because it's coming from me, from America, from Canada. You should hold 2 days." I remember telling him, no. The parnasa is coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're just the shliach. You're just the messenger. I'm holding 1 day. That's the story. In other words, the question is parnasa. Parnasa comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I hold 1 day. But the American Gedolim, Moshe Feinstein says, that unless you know that you're staying in Eretz Yisrael and you know you hold 2 days. You can't hold 1 day b'chlal. The Israeli poskim are a little bit more makel because according to Chacham Tzvi, anyway, you hold 1 day. So even if you don't hold like the Chacham Tzvi, but it's enough that if you're not sure, or you're here with your wife, or you have maybe a parnasa, or you're here for a long time, you can hold 1 day.
Yeshiva bocher.
What?
A yeshiva bocher.
Oh,
You go for 1 year.
Another machlekes, a yeshiva bocher. So the Svardim say the yeshiva bocher has no kvius. He only holds one day. Again, based on the Chacham. Chacham Tzvi says even the tourists, we don't hold like the Chacham Tzvi. But based on the Chacham Tzvi, and because the Chacham Tzvi says one day for everybody, Yeshiva Bacha, right now is Yeshiva. That's his kvius. Svardim hold, Yeshiva Vad Yosef holds, Yeshiva Bacha is Yeshiva, one day only. I know if a seminary goes the same way, but that's a Svardim hold like that. But the Moshe very strong. Number 13, he says, even a Yeshiva Bacha, he's going back to America, 2 days. And then he's a Ben Chutz Laretz. Same machlekes, 1 day or 2 days, Yeshiva Bacha, same thing. I remember when I was in Yeshiva, so my father told me that his Rosh Yeshiva told him that a Yeshiva Bacha, sein Platz is in Yeshiva. Yeshiva Bacha is Kvius is in Yeshiva. So therefore you hold only 1 day. But it's not so clear. Seems to be from the Magen Avram that even Yeshiva Bachim, they're going back and forth, and you'd have to hold from based on where you're going back to. But that's another machlokes, again, based on the Chacham Tzvi, etc., etc. There's an interesting psak from Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Now, by the way, even if somebody has a house, Minir Levi, somebody has a house, or Minir Jacobs, you wanted to know, somebody has a house in Eretz Yisrael, does that mean that he is a Ben Eretz Yisrael? And Reb Moshe says, so what if you have a house? People have houses all over the world. Where is your kavius? Where are you most of the year? Are you most of the year in Chutz Laretz and you just come for vacation to Eretz Yisrael? You hold 2 days. Most of the year you're in Eretz Yisrael, you hold 1 day. 50-50, you might have to hold in Eretz Yisrael 1 day. In Chutz Laretz 2 days. Just because you own a house doesn't really mean anything. Moshe is right. Owning a house, people own houses all over the world. Does that mean that's their kviyas? Hard to say that. Reb Shlomo Zalman comes with a big chiddush. Reb Shlomo Zalman says that if somebody is there for all 3 regalim, he's planning to be there for all 3 Yomim Tovim, then even though he lives in Chutz Laretz, he only holds 1 day. And again, he says the svara of the Chacham Tzvi. Why? He says, number 1, there's a svara of the Chacham Tzvi. And number 2, he says that since the whole reason you hold 2 days, because there's Zaru b'minik avosechem b'yadechem, but somebody who's all 3 Yomim Tovim in Eretz Yisrael, he didn't have minik avosechem b'yadechem to hold 2 days. Because Yom Tovim, he was always in Eretz Yisrael. So when it came to the minik avosechem b'yadechem, he wasn't a Ben Eretz Chutz Laretz, he was a Ben Eretz Yisrael. Because he didn't have minik avosechem b'yadechem, because he's always in Eretz Yisrael on the Gimel Regalim. So Shlomo Zalman says, if you're there, all 3 Yom Tovim, even if you don't own a house, it's irrelevant if you own a house. But your 3 Yom Tovim you're in Eretz Yisrael, you hold like Ben Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because then there's no minik avosechem b'yadechem together with the svara of the Chacham Tzvi. That's all these questions. Ask your Rav how to paskin halacha l'maisa. That's all based on this machlekes. There's one more interesting halacha, very interesting halacha, which actually is number 16 on the sheet, which I don't have on me. I don't know how to do it. Zev, could you show this one? Or if not, then I'll say it outside. If I hold 2 days, in, this is number 16, the last page. If I hold 2 days in Eretz Yisrael, right? If I hold 2 days in Eretz Yisrael, and I am a Ben Chutz Laretz in Eretz Yisrael, could I have a Ben Eretz Yisrael do malacha for me on the 2nd day Yom Tov? You hear that, Shaila? Mm-hmm. I'm in Eretz Yisrael. I hold 2 days Yom Tov.
You have 2 days, and
could I ask a Ben Eretz Yisrael to do malacha for me on my 2nd day Yom Tov? So the truth is, the halacha is that when it comes to Shabbos, if I made an early Shabbos after Plaga Mincha and you did not, you can do malacha for me because it's not Shabbos for you. But here, when I'm in Ben Chutz Laretz in Eretz Yisrael, I got to keep 2 days Yom Tov. Could I tell somebody who's only keeping 1 day Yom Tov to do the malacha for me? Is that permitted or not? So the truth is, it's a big machlekes. Look at number 16.
That's the same thing. Amir al-Goy, yeah?
Yeah, but Amir al-Akim is also.
Yeah.
So is this permitted or not? So look at number 16. Sheben Chutz La'aretz Shoyim Be'etz Yisrael, Mutar Loyme LeBen Eretz Yisrael, Sheyasem Locha B'Yom Tov Sheni. Umari Pragu, Mari Malchu, Dochu Dvorov, Viskimu Li'Israel. It's a machlokes. What's the machlokes dependent on? Says Reb Shlomo Zalman in number 16, it depends on that same machlokes why you hold 2 days in Chutz La'aretz. The Rambam or the Ritva. Midin Vadai or Midin Sofek. Says Reb Shlomo Zalman, if the reason why I hold 2 days in the Chutz La'aretz, and Memela in Eretz Yisrael I hold 2 days, because Minik have a saying b'day in Chumra Mokim Shiatzi Misham, is because it's a Vadai. I know for a fact that the first day is Yom Tov, second day is not Yom Tov. So nevertheless, Chazal said, second day you have to keep Yom Tov midrabanan, and now when I come to Eretz Yisrael, I know that the real Yom Tov is the first day, and still I have to keep Yom Tov the second day midrabanan, even though if I know. So then he says, then the Ben Chutz La'aretz can tell the Ben Eretz Yisrael to do malacha for him, because the takana was on me, the takana was not on you. I know that for you it's not Yom Tov. I know for you it's weekday, so I can tell you to do malacha because I know the truth. I know the truth for me. I know the truth for you. I know for me it's Yom Tov midrabanan. I know for you it's not Yom Tov. It's like Shabbos. I'm Makabel Shabbos. You're not Makabel Shabbos. You can do malacha for me because I know that for you it's not Yom Tov. So therefore you can do malacha for me. But says Reb Shlomo Zalman, if the reason why I do malacha, I do 2 days Yom Tov, is because it's a suffix for me, I have to pretend as if I don't know, as if I'm a suffix, as if I'm living in a time of Shmad and maybe Yachzad Dovel Kilkuloi. And I have to keep me suffix. I have to keep 2 days Yom Tov because I taka don't know. Says Reb Shlomo Zalman, if I don't know, then I don't know that Yud Chut in Eretz Yisrael, it's not Yom Tov because it's a suffix for me. See, if I don't know that for you it's not Yom Tov because it's a suffix for me, I'm not allowed to ask you to do malacha for me. So it comes out the exact opposite svara. If it's midin vadai for me, both days midiraisa midrabanan, then I know for you it's not Yom Tov. You ben Eretz Yisrael, you can do malacha for me. But if I'm only a suffix and I taka don't know, and even when I'm in Eretz Yisrael, I don't know why, because I have to keep the minhag of saying as if I don't know. So if I don't know that for you it's vadai chayil, because I don't know. So if I don't know, I cannot ask you to do malacha for me, and hence you're not to do malacha for the ben Chutz La'aretz. I think the Welt is Mako, and the Welt does ask other bnei Eretz Yisrael to do malacha for the bnei Chutz La'aretz, and we're Mako, and people are not so machmir on this halacha. But it's not so pashut, and it depends on the same machlekes. So that's really, in a nutshell, it's already 4:30. It's already 10:30, so I went already over time. But that's basically doesn't matter. That's basically the whole concept, the whole sugya. It depends on what the takana is in Chutz La'aretz bisman hazeh, midin vadai, midin sofek, the Rambam, the Ritva. There's a Gemara that says you have to keep the minhag of the place that you left from. Chumrei hamokim shehalach misham. If you die to lachzor, that would seem to apply anywhere, even if you come to Eretz Yisrael. Comes the Chacham Tzvi and says, no. Chumras and Kulas doesn't fly b'Baal Tosef. And besides, how could you be better than you'd be in Eretz Yisrael? You wouldn't bring a second Korban Pesach, so why now do you have to keep 2 days? What the machlokes is dependent on again. If it's a din sofek, then it makes sense, the Chacham Tzvi. If it's a din vadai, we know what it is, we still keep it, you got to keep the minhagim. Halach l'maisa, most do not paskin like the Chacham Tzvi, though there are those that are machmir like the Chacham Tzvi, at least to put on tefillin. And I think Lubavitch is altogether making like the Chacham Tzvi. But most of us hold that you have to hold 2 days Yom Tov, even in Eretz Yisrael. But nevertheless, we can be mitzarev the Chacham Tzvi in certain cases. If you're, kind of living over there and you're not really sure, you can add on the Chacham Tzvi, though others are machmir. If you're a Shiva Bacher, maybe throw in the Chacham Tzvi, and all these different svaras, because the Chacham Tzvi still was from the Gedolei Adar, and he held a certain shita, and therefore they used the Chacham Tzvi in certain instances that even a Ben Chutz La'aretz holds only one day in Eretz Yisrael. That's where I think the whole concept and the whole sugya of 2 days and 1 days in Eretz Yisrael is even Bisman Hazeh.
Okay, Kreuz Koyer.
Okay?
I always keep 2 days. No, okay.
Okay, keep on doing that. You put on tefillin the last
Keep on
day or
doing
no?
that. Yes.
You don't put on tefillin the last day, do you?
Sorry?
You don't put on tefillin the last day.
Course
No,
not.
no, not the last day. No.
That's a chumrah. That's a chumrah. Shmuel Salant held that chumrah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it was very interesting. Thank you very much.
Okay, all the best.
Okay,
Oh.
bye-bye. Skoyer.
Tot ziens, everyone.
Tot ziens. Skoyer.